Welcome back to Simple Robotics, the podcast, a podcast exploring the animation industry one episode at a time. I'm your host, Monique, and you can find me on all social media platforms at Simple Robotics. Now, I say this every time I'm having a podcast episode where I'm not by myself, but this episode that we're about to have is with Ruel Smith. He's someone that's participated in a couple diverse tunes panels last year for our virtual programming. And the more that we do these panels, the more that I've gotten to know him, and I thought he was the best person for this episode. Obviously, given the time, my background is alluding a little bit to what we will talk about in this episode, and we'll learn a bit more about Ruel and his career journey. But before we do that, I need to say that this is another episode that's being sponsored by Autodesk, and shout out to them. I'm so happy that that's just a thing I get to say, and that I'm being supported in that way. And the support has allowed me to really, elevate things on this side. But that's enough about me. Let's get into the episode. We are live. Hello and welcome everyone to our Simple Robotics, the podcast live. I am I'm Monique, I should say, and I'm hosting this show that just covers the animation industry ins and outs, and sometimes we have industry people like my guest Ruel, and then other times I have friends and we just talk about a whole bunch of variety of things. So today is my background is going to allude to a little bit of what we're going to talk about, and that this is a pre-recording, so you guys are getting this in advance to what this week will be, and I probably will have like a little rollout and what have you. But we're not going to waste much time. Let's get into it. Ruel, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, such as starting from like where you're from?
Gotcha. Well, first, thanks for having me, Monique. I appreciate it. I try to catch as much of Simply Robotics as I can on your IG, and it's always kind of fun to chime in. I am Ruel Smith. I born and raised in Jamaica, moved to the U.S. for high school, East Coast, East Orange, New Jersey. Went to college in New York City, where I studied at the School of Visual Arts, along with another alumni, Monique. And then after college, I moved out to Los Angeles to pursue my animation career, which I've lived here for now 15 years.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you? Well, actually moving from first off Jamaica to America, and then moving from East Coast to West Coast.
Gotcha. I want to say moving to the West Coast was a little bit more shocking from the East Coast than it was from Jamaica to the US, to New Jersey, New York City area. I mean, you grow up on American television, right? Especially being in Jamaica. So you watch a lot of just American shows and then cartoons and stuff. So there was always oh man, I get to live in, the US. And my mom at the time had lived in the US since the 80s. So it was always this excitement to just be in the States and, just kind of be near New York City. The move to West Coast was a little bit more daunting because you're moving there you're more of an adult at this point, right? And it's a career move. It's a big decision. You're by yourself. At least I was by myself. I had no one that I knew had moved to California at that time. I was the first. I was moving out there with just like a suitcase and a dream kind of thing. And so it wasn't guaranteed, right? So I would say that would be the difference. One was more for business and your dreams, and one was just, relocating to live with my mom in the U.S.
Gotcha. And I like to ask all my guests this, like, what was your first job kind of like ever? Like when you first got paid versus your first job starting in the animation VFX industry?
My first job was at Sam Goody, the music store in Livingston, New Jersey, the Livingston Mall, New Jersey. 10th grade to senior year of high school. That was the era of Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, Christina Aguilera. So that's what was playing in the store all day, every day. Like that era of like the battle of the Christina Aguilera versus Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC. Yeah. And so that was my first job, paid job, after school and during the summer. And my first job in the industry, I got to do, there was a studio after I graduated, I stayed in New York for an extra year, right? And I got this at this place called Treehouse Animation. They did the very first Star Wars Legos, the very first animated Lego thing.
Oh, okay.
And it started as an internship, which led into a paying gig. But they'd done Star Wars Legos, and it was this is like 2004, September, October 2004 till like about March 2005. And yeah, that was up by the Empire State Building. That was my first job. I got to put together, I'm not the biggest Star Wars person, like fanatic, but like, it's not the Millennium Falcon. I can't remember what this, like
I wouldn't know.
It's the triangle shaped piece, but my first job, it was like 10,000 pieces of Lego that I had to put together by myself.
Oh, no.
That was like my hazing / initiation into the industry.
Oh, that's pretty cool though.
Which everyone else today would be like, oh, my friends are like, oh my God, that was like the best first job. I'm like, I'm sitting there listening to Eminem in my headphones, just kind of putting together. It took me like 6 days.
Wow.
Put it together, 10,000 pieces.
Do you have
35 pieces to be?
Do you have any pictures?
No, this is 04.
Oh,
I mean, we barely.
If you did, it's probably like gone, right?
Yeah. So we didn't have camera phones then.
You did mention that we both attended the same college, university, art school, what have you. Can you speak a bit about your experience there? Also, name the school.
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. I got a scholarship to go to School of Visual Arts. 2000 to 2004. I had done animation in high school, and it was to a decent level of what they were doing, what they were studying in freshman year in college. And so I ended up, speaking of which, okay, I think this should be mentioned. So I went to the Cicely Tyson Performing and Fine Arts High School.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I was like, how'd you do animation in high school back then?
Yeah. So, in honor of the late Cicely Tyson, who passed a couple of days ago, I went to the Cicely Tyson Performing and Fine Arts High School, and then a teacher at the school who was a Disney fanatic and taught band my 9th grade year. Mr. Vincent Patuto, he started an animation program, a 2D animation program, and I joined my 10th grade and then did that. And then we were just kind of known in the area of like, wow, they're doing some pretty cool stuff here. So then I got a special scholarship to go to SVA. And to me, I mean, it's an interesting space. My number one choice was Academy of Art. I think every person at that time, like, you're right there by ILM, you're right there by Pixar, you're already in California, so it was. And then my number two choice was School of Visual Arts. And the deciding factor, one was the scholarship, but the number two choice was I would get a chance to live in New York City. And I already knew I was going to move west anyway, or wanted to. So I said, let me choose New York City. And I'm really happy I did that, because I got to live in an art mecca, right? Like outside of just animation and computers, New York City is known for just being an art mecca. So so I was more, looking back, I was more into New York City for just being New York City and it being an art melting pot than necessarily animation at SVA, right?
Yeah, so this is like news to me. And now I want to ask you, do you feel in any way that your decision to attend art school in New York could have impacted your career trajectory than if you would have went to school in California?
You know what? Yes, I think so. I think they both affected my career in separate ways. I think had I gone on here, like say Academy of Art, I think I would have more probably would have had a better shot at like a Pixar at that time. You know, I think your surroundings influence you a
Right.
lot. So like being right there, you know, or being at CalArts, Disney, DreamWorks, so forth, are here. Academy of Art in San Francisco, ILM, Tippett. I was a huge Tippett Studios fan and a Phil Tippett fan at the time. And obviously ILM and Pixar. But I think in the long run, I got more of an art experience and an influence and art culture living in New York City.